So this is what you see when you first log onto the orchestrator of HP Aruba Edgeconnect. These are all the devices on the left hand side of the menu. This is the dashboard, and these menus are not supposed to be there when you first log in. I just say this is a freshly installed orchestrator. Now, the reason why this orchestrator can see all these devices is because you punch in the license key. Once you punch in the license key of all these devices and the IP address of the cloud portal, that's the cloud portal for registration only. There are two types of servers in the Aruba world. It's a cloud portal for only registration and the orchestrator for management and configuration, but basically control plane of the SD-WAN solution for this customer. So you can have, this now we only have three appliances. You can have 300, maybe 1,000 of them. This is the map that actually shows you where the devices are based on IP addresses. And these are the top talkers, which IP address is been visited by which Edge Connect, so on and so forth. These are the top domains visited. Obviously, most of the traffic is headed towards Google, and these are the top applications. Obviously, the Times applications, web, and whatnot. This is a really good overview of the entire network. It's not device specific. So what you do is basically you hover onto any one of the devices you want to configure, and it shows you first of all the firmware version and how long it's been up, the type of alarms, and then you hover over the application manual, the three bars, and you click onto it, and you go to deployment, and then you bring up the manual that allows you to configure the LAN and the WAN interfaces. Basically, SD-WAN, right? Software-defined WAN. It's an equipment for WAN devices, for WAN devices. And once you configure the IP addresses, and it's very important that you label them. Now, these are all the labels that comes with the orchestrator. MPLS 1, MPLS 2, LTE, INET 1 as an Internet 1, Internet 2. You can define your own labels as well. You can call them A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever. Okay, and then you normally you use the stateful mode for firewall. This firewall is built into it, so you don't have to install another firewall in front of this, in the actual internet modem and this device. Because there's a stateful firewall function built into this device already, and you can squeeze the bandwidth yourself, and you can set the next hop. Obviously, it's the DIA IP address. That's the IP address of the DIA service provided by the provider, and that's it. Once you configure everything, then the next thing you do is you go to configuration. As you can see, there are a number of main menus: monitoring, configuration, administration, orchestration, support, right? And the most used main menu is obviously configuration. You go to configurations, whenever you want to configure the overlay, the business intent overlay is actually the overlay network of Edge Connect. And you want to configure the firewalls and routing. Okay, let me just show the BIO business intent overlay. Now, this is essentially the overlay network configuration page. And there are 7 of those business intent overlays you can use. Now, when it comes to overlay, it means the the virtualized network for the entire solution, for the entire network, for the entire enterprise. So there are 2 types of traffic between these devices, between the LAN environments of multiple sites, and the traffic that heads out to the internet. As you can see, there are a lot of applications on the cloud nowadays, so it's very important to separate them into 2 different internet, two different type of traffic. So there are 7 layers, just like ACL or prefix list or route map of a Cisco router. If the traffic is not matched by the first BIO, the criteria laid out on the first BIO, then it will look for it in the second BIO and third and fourth and fifth and so forth. So you click on the first one to configure it. Remember the labels that I told you about. Just say if this device is connected to both the Internet 1 and MPLS, you want to bundle them together. So you want to use them together to reach the other site. Okay? Only from one site to another site. For whatever applications, like in this topology. And topology is always using ECV, this one as the hub device. Okay, that's the hub, this point here. Okay, let me just show you that to explain it better. Now, the thing about SD-WAN is because everything is all virtualized, you can it's really flexible to control how the traffic is being routed on the network. Let's say normally there are two types of topologies. One of them is fully meshed, and another one is hub and spoke. Fully meshed traffic, illustrated by the yellow lines. Let's say you want to route the email traffic over the yellow lines, fully meshed traffic. Then what you do is you configure this as full mesh, okay? And then the hub is not going to be important anymore. It's not going to be using that as a hub. And then for all the devices, you want to be able to use as a primary link Internet 1 and MPLS 1. And then you want to use Internet 2 as backup. So that's the concept behind it. All you have to do is to drag and drop it here, and then you go OK, and then it's done. Now, second thing I want to illustrate is this link bonding policy. Now, for this, for whatever the primary BIO, the secondary BIO, you can bond the two physical links together and then categorize them as different class of traffic. Okay, so this is basically the basic concept of using BIO. For internet traffic, it's pretty much the same. You drag and drop the, say you want to use Internet 1 and 4G, you want to bundle them together as the primary output of Internet. Okay, this is what you do. You drag them over, and if you want to use, let's say there's a third link, like for some reason MPLS is also connected to the internet, you use this. So traffic is going to be routed to the MPLS network, and on the other side of whatever device, somehow the MPLS network will be able to route this traffic over to the internet. Okay, provided that MPLS is already connected to the internet. Now that's business intent over there. Second thing I want to show you is DPI. Like deep packet inspection is huge because the evolution of networking up till now is no longer based on IP addresses. IP addresses is still very important. It serves the purpose of routing traffic in the underlay network. But because there's so much processing power nowadays and it's easy to recognize different applications based on the signature, it's actually very easy to recognize. It's actually very easy to route traffic, not only based on IP addresses, but based on the application itself. It just recognizes what kind of applications when the packet comes in. Say if it's Facebook, you do a search on Facebook, and this device can search up to 1 million applications. And this signature is actually updated by Aruba HP periodically. Okay, so routing can be done based on IP addresses and DPI as well, which is same as Cisco policy-based routing. Okay, now another thing I want to highlight is command line interface is useful, but it's not as useful as the actual orchestrator itself. Back in the Cisco days, like pretty much all functions has to be activated via commands. But with SD-WAN, it's not really the case. There's still a lot of commands. As you can see, a lot of the commands are actually very recognizable. You know, you want to set up tunnels, you want to set up the VRRP for the redundancy purpose. All these commands are there, but it's not the full set of functions. So even the vendor itself wouldn't recommend you to use commands. They recommend you to go to the orchestrator and configure everything over there. And another thing I want to show you is the firewall function. This is a very typical zone-based firewall configuration interface. So you can add the number of zones, and it really depends on how you want to allow the flow of traffic from one zone to another zone. So typically you have a default one. You want to route, you want to categorize different interface as default, then everything's going to be allowed as in the LAN environment. You want to be able to see everything and reach all the other hosts on the network, then you use the default one. Or